This is Brian Wardyga, aka The Professor, right here on 102.9 FM, WLAS, LP Newton. And with us today is a special guest, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, Maiah Wynne. Hello, Maiah.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, greetings all the way from outside of Boston across the country to Santa Rosa. We're thrilled to have you with us today. A huge thank you from everyone here at WLAS for taking time out to chat with us. So, let's dive right in. What's new in the world of Maiah Wynne in the summer of 2025?
Honestly, it's been a really interesting summer. I've been navigating a lot of changes. I moved from Oregon to California fairly recently, and I've been working on a lot of exciting projects, including an animated film that I've been helping to write the music for.
Oh, wow.
Um, I've been working on some of my own music and just kind of getting back into the groove of things with the changing industry. It's hard to keep up with, to be honest, the way that the music industry is constantly changing, but I'm doing my best and feel like I'm kind of chasing after it.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about this animated film.
It's really cute. It's a rom-com sort of, almost sci-fi elements as well. But I got connected with the producer years ago when I worked on a film in Montana when I was living there. And I do some acting as well, so I'll be acting as the lead character, voice acting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it'll be really fun. We just cast the other lead, and it's been really fun. Kind of a new experience to see different animated versions of myself along the way as we've been working on it, and everything else is kind of under wraps at the moment. I'm not sure how much I can say, but it's really exciting.
No worries. That's exciting though. Oh my gosh. An animated
Yeah.
version of yourself. I can't wait to see it. Let's see. Take us back to your musical beginnings, I guess. Let's start there. What are some of the first instruments you started exploring, and how did you really learn to, get into music?
Music was always a source of emotional expression for me. I think I didn't always have the words, especially as a kid, to really express how I was feeling. But I started on piano very young, and as I grew up, I would come home from school and just sit at the piano and play for hours and improvise. And there was something very cathartic about that. And I always had this very exciting and emotional connection with music. And so it just kind of grew from there. And I started to teach myself other instruments from a pretty young age, around 11, 12. I started to learn the mandolin, and then I taught myself guitar and banjo and dulcimer and drums and all these other things. And I just keep learning, and it's still exciting for me.
That's great. I know the piano is a wonderful way to start. I also read that you composed your very first song at the age of 7. Is that right?
I did. I still remember it. It's just an instrumental piece, but and I'm sure it's ripped off of some sort of like, I don't know, some Mozart thing. It feels very familiar in a way where I'm like, did I write this? But I thought I wrote it, so
There you go. Reminds me of, I think, when Paul McCartney wrote Yesterday, was it, that he thought like he must have heard that somewhere else and that it wasn't his song until finally, everybody told him, no, no, it's original. Go ahead and make it. So let's see. You've achieved so much already in your early career: awards, writing for film, now anime, performing at significant events like Sundance. What's been your most meaningful experience so far, and how has that experience kind of shaped your artistic journey?
it's a really good question. I think those really meaningful moments are kind of the in-between moments where you really connect with people on a more personal level. And for me, those have been kind of sprinkled in between shows where I get to talk to somebody after show who has resonated with my music, and they get to tell me in what ways that different songs have meant something to them. Those moments are really special to me and mean a lot. And then same with receiving messages from people online, because people can be so kind and will take the time out of their day sometimes to just really tell you the impact that your music has made in their life, and that those are the things that really feel the most meaningful to me. I think also the work that I've done with different nonprofits with my music, I feel very strongly about that, and especially because the music industry and following a career in music is so inherently kind of myopic. You're so surrounded in yourself and
Right.
how to create the biggest career of your own self and your own face and all these things, and it can be so easy to get lost in that. And so I try to find ways to connect with other people or do things that feel good, and those are the things that feel the most meaningful for me, especially right now. But yeah, I think my work with Fearless Girl and MMIW, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, was the nonprofit that I worked with for that. And they made a really important impact after we worked on this video and got connected with people who could help. And that really meant a lot to me. But yeah, I think those are the moments that mean the most.
That's awesome. I love how technology is allowing artists to really, be in touch with their fans the way that it's happening now, and just the fact that we have this interview right now across the country is just a great example of that. So your solo album debut, Out of the Dark, just released in November 2024, but you've been producing EPs and such since 2017. Tell us a little bit about songs from Lucy Gray Baird's EPs and how those might have helped prepare you for the full-length record.
Yeah, actually, it was a really fun project for me because I really dove into creating these arrangements for The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was the most recent Hunger Games book and film. Or I guess there's a more recent book that came out, but it was such an amazing experience. I took these lyrics that were in the book and made musical arrangements and put them up, and they went viral. And through that process, I was producing and writing these arrangements. And it was the first time that I really let myself fully produce essentially a record. And it was really great practice leading up into my album that I was also producing. I learned a lot from it, and it was such a fun project to take on. And it was also as a songwriter in the music on the music side of things, because I wasn't writing the lyrics for it, but it was a new challenge as a songwriter to take pre-written lyrics and try to come up with a melody that would make sense for these lyrics. And that was also just, I think it really helped me grow as an artist. Anytime I can do something outside of my norm, I feel like it helps me grow and become a better songwriter or producer.
For sure. You've said Out of the Dark spans a decade, the first song written when you were about 16 years old and others more recently. Do you remember which track was written first and which was written last for the album?
I do. The first song on the record that I wrote was Come On, which I wrote when I was around 16 years old. And it was a really challenging time in my life. I was leaving home. I moved to Montana. I was going through a lot, so I very much remember where I was at that point in time. And the most recent one, I believe, was Where the Grass is Green, which is actually the song I wrote as I was getting out of the situation I was getting into when I was 16. And so it was a lot of challenges, a lot of bumps along the road, and I learned a lot. And I'm grateful for that journey, but it was definitely hard in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's interesting because it does start with this song essentially about leaving home, Come On, and then Where the Grass is Green, where I'm kind of like also leaving that situation that I got into. So it's very much getting into it, this journey into it, and then learning along the way and finding my way out.
For sure. Yeah, it's got a wonderful flow to it. It's just beautiful, from the opener, Come On, to how the album picks up in the middle and then the closer, a chance to say goodbye. Everything just fits together really, really well.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. To me, your album feels like a journey from the melody to the lyrics to the production. What's your typical songwriting starting point? Do you begin with a melody or a phrase or something else entirely?
Usually, yeah, the music, a lot of my songs start with a feeling, and I'll sit down and play an instrument until I play something that feels right and connected to that feeling. It's almost like a release when I find it. Like, oh, that's it. That's that note, that chord progression. It connects to this feeling, and I'm following that thread. And then as I'm finding that melody on the instrument, I'll start singing, and it'll be a mixture of words and sounds and gibberish until similarly it's like I'm finding a phrase that feels connected to that feeling. And then I'll
Hmm.
keep kind of chasing that down until it slowly starts to form into an actual song.
That's really cool. It almost sounds like sculpting or something, like starting with that lump of clay and kind of working it up until it forms something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So everybody in here loves the track "What a Shame." That was our first song that we put into rotation from the album. We found it instantly accessible and loaded with powerful imagery. I was wondering if you could share the inspiration behind that song.
Thank you. That's one of my favorites on the album too. I'm so happy you like it. I allowed myself to kind of go into a darker place for that one. And through my own experiences and also through the experiences of people that I love, unfortunately, there's so much in that song that people can relate to. And I wrote it, it's very much a commentary, partially about the industry, but also about society and how we treat young people, especially young women who are growing up, and this sort of sexualization of teens and young girls, and then as they get older, this sort of discarding of them and punishing them as they age, and disregarding them as they get older. And it's such a horrible cycle that we put these people through, and you see it happening almost in hyperspeed on the media with these young child stars that grow up and then become ridiculed as they naturally age. And
Right.
it's so frustrating. It's frustrating to experience. It's frustrating to witness, and it just feels so gross. And I felt so angry and disillusioned and disheartened at those experiences and witnessing this with other people, and just sat down and wrote this kind of dark, angry, brooding song about that feeling, and how shameful it is to be. And they call it love. You should be grateful for this attention you're receiving, and that's basically where the concept of the song came from. What a shame it is to be loved that way.
Wow. And there's some really awesome soundscapes that kind of happen later in that song that I can't even put into words, like what's happening, but it's just like so awesome, so empoweringly emotional. Um, I'm guessing some technology went into some of that.
Definitely. And also a lot of just like screaming and distortion, and there's definitely yelling and screaming and lots of weird vocal layers. And I
Mm,
put I found a it was like a text to speech thing on my phone, and I just put in "what a shame," or not, no, "smile for the camera," that's what it was.
okay.
"Smile for the camera," and I imported that into my song. It's just this like almost spooky robotic male voice saying "smile for the camera," and so that's happening, and there's distortion on it, so you can't really tell
Yeah,
sometimes that
yeah.
it's even a voice, but that comes in later. There's lots of guitar layers. There's like more guitar layers on that song than any other song on the record. I
Mm,
had, I think, my guitars, Alex's guitars, Brooks's guitars, and then another friend named Brock who added more guitar layers.
wow.
So there's
It's awesome.
four different guitarists in that song, which is crazy.
Very cool. Very cool. So, being one of your favorites, if you had to pick one song from the album to introduce someone to your work, would it be that or a different song?
Ooh. I feel like I always direct people towards Come On as like an introductory song because it
Hmm.
has sort of this blend of that like more soft, haunting side, but then all of these layers, these almost synth-like guitar reverbs and this space to it, and I feel like it's a good place to start. But also I think What a Shame is a great place to start if you're ready for something that's like dark and brooding.
Sure, sure. Let's see. When I listen to the title track, Out of the Dark, I feel like that song could have been written to you. Was it intended that way?
I think somewhat, yeah. It's in my when I first started writing it, I was writing it for a friend, but I think as I continued to write it, it became more and more a song that I needed to hear.
Hmm. Awesome. You play a lot of instruments on the album. Could you list a few and maybe share how you came to learn so many of these? Any of these happened during the production?
Yes. Let's see. I think I play guitar, piano, drums, mandolin, dulcimer, guchin, saz, bouzouki. I'm trying to remember a hammered dulcimer. I know there's more in their bass. I play a lot of synths as well.
Wow.
Um, and I'm self-taught with pretty much everything except for the piano.
Sure.
But it's today's the day and age to really be self-taught. I say self-taught, but really it's like YouTube videos and people who have taken the time to make chord charts online, and all these people over so much time who have taken the time out of their day to add to this huge database of information that makes it so easy to like self-learn and claim that I've
Yeah.
like, done it all myself. But really it's, so many people who have contributed to this amazing instantaneous place of knowledge. So I feel grateful for all of those people out there who take the time to create tutorials because now I do. I know how to play like dozens of instruments and I can easily add these things to my album. But I did also work with a lot of amazing and talented people on my record. Bethany Joyce, who played the cello, Alex Lifeson played guitar, so did Brooks Berg, and I had other people arranging different strings in different parts of the record, and drummers, some talented drummers, Tyrone Hendricks among some of them, and so I also can't really take credit for everything, but I did play a ridiculous amount of instruments on this record.
For sure, for sure. That's so good. What an experience. So, was there a lot of, besides Alex, was there a lot of crossover? And we will get to the band in a minute. I don't want to talk too much about that yet, but was there much crossover between the solo album and your band?
There was a little bit. Actually, What a Shame was the song that I think they wanted on my band's album the most out of my record, but I really wanted to keep it for my album because it was important to me. But other than that, there's some stuff in old strings that my bandmates played on, and then Alex played on, I think, 6 or 7 songs on the record, which was really
Wow,
amazing.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we transition to your band, Envy of None, is there any other important facts or details on Out of the Dark that you'd like to highlight for your fans?
I think just taking a moment to talk a little bit about the themes of the album and wanting people to know that this is very much a record of healing and moving through difficult moments in life. So if you're out there and you're going through anything, you might find some connection in this record, and especially songs like All Too Much or Out of the Dark. I definitely wrote those because I knew there was other people out there who were dealing with similar things. So I would love it if you listened, and if there's something you connect with, let me know because it means a lot to me.
Absolutely. So it was actually this album, your solo work, that led us to discover your band Envy of None, alongside Rush guitarist Alex Lifeson, Andy Curran from Coney Hatch, and musician and engineer Alfio Anibolini. How did you come together to decide to form this band?
It was kind of a serendipitous thing that happened, but I actually won a song contest when I was, I think, 19 years old. And I, as one of my prizes, won a Zoom mentorship call with Andy Curran, who is bass player and a vocalist in Coney Hatch, but he also has worked in A&R and worked with labels for many, many years. And so that's actually how I met him. Was I was like, oh, he's this like big label guy in Canada, and I'm going to ask him all my business questions. And so I spent most of the Zoom call with him asking him business related questions, having no idea what his career was like as a musician. And he started talking about some of the music he was working on, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Sounds similar to some of the stuff I'm doing. If you ever need a vocalist, let me know. Because he was really encouraging me to do more collaborations, and that was a really good thing for me to do in my career. So I didn't really think a lot about it. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do collaborations. Do you want to collaborate with me? And
Right.
he actually took me up on it, and we started working on some music together with him and his friend Alf. And then Andy brought Alex into it about, I think, we'd been working on 2 or 3 songs, and he called me and was like, hey, so my buddy Alex listened to this and he really likes it. He's going to add some guitars. And I had no idea about the connection to Alex at that point. I was just like, okay, cool, yeah, your buddy
Yeah.
Alex. And then he was like, do you know Alex Lifeson from the band Rush? And I think my heart stopped. I was like, yeah, I know the band Rush. What are you
Right.
talking about? And I just like, didn't know there was this connection there. I was really young. I wasn't familiar with Coney Hatch at the time. And then it was like all of the dots connected, and my mind was blown. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm now in a band with Alex Lifeson. And then, of course, like I got to know Andy more and his career with Coney Hatch. And like, it's just been such an honor to work with all of them. And Alf also is a very accomplished engineer, producer, and
Right.
songwriter as well. And so getting the chance to work with these guys has been so amazing. And I feel so lucky. And it just feels like, I don't know, almost accidental that it all happened the way that it did.
Right. And you've also worked with a couple of drummers, Tim Oxford and David Quinton Steinberg. Can you share a little bit about what it's been like working with them and whether they'll return for future recordings?
For sure. David is amazing. Um, Honestly, all of the drummers we've worked with on the record have been amazing. David is actually also our entertainment lawyer, but he's
Okay.
a very accomplished drummer. He's worked with a lot of different bands throughout the years. But he is also just an incredible drummer. We also had Randy Cook, who played on a lot of the more recent album, as well as David. And so we kind of almost find different drummers for each song, which has been really fun. There's about,
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know, 5 or 6 different drummers that we've worked with through the 2 different records that we've put out. But I have the closest relationship with David, and he's such an amazing person, and it's just so fun to also see him rock out on the drums and then, put his lawyer hat on.
That's really cool. So you described your solo album as an eclectic mix of heartfelt singer-songwriter ballads, alternative rock, and uplifting cinematic folk pop, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. In contrast, how would you describe the sound of Envy of None to someone who's never heard the band before?
I think my solo record compared to the band, it's like with my band, we very much lean into the heaviness. There's more grunge, it's a little bit darker, more brooding. The drums are a lot more prominent in those songs. There's more electronic elements as well, lots of guitars, and
Sure.
the vocals sometimes aren't as forefront. There's a lot happening in these songs. They're very dense, but in very cool ways. It's still very eclectic and kind of runs the gamut. There's still some like oud and almost, I think, Middle Eastern influences sometimes because of the instruments that Alex plays. And then with my solo record, there's a lot of folk influence, singer-songwriter influences. There's still some of that darkness and some of those rock and almost grunge influences sometimes, but for the most part, it's more of a singer-songwriter, more ethereal, and the vocals are, I think, a little bit more upfront in my record. But I write lyrics and vocals for both projects, so I think my voice is very much the thread between both of
Mhm.
them, and there's still connections between both projects.
For sure. Yeah, I'm digging them both. So, I'm hoping that you carry on both with the solo work and with Envy of None. Does the band have a nickname like that you use? For example, like do you ever call the band just Envy or Eon or anything like that?
We definitely go with Eon a lot when we're talking.
Yep. Cool. Good to know because I never really saw that anywhere, and I was just wondering so if I can start to use that acronym a little bit now with our discussion here.
Love that.
Awesome. So the self-titled Eon debut was voted eighth best guitar album of 2022. Congratulations for that. I think was that Guitar World or what was the
I believe so,
Yep.
yeah.
And then since then, you've been very active, obviously, releasing the EP in 2023, Stygian Waves, just months after your solo record this past March. Was there any times that were you working on both albums at the same time, or was it kind of one at a time?
I was definitely working on both for a while. With my own record, since it was self-released, it was a lot of work. I I did a lot of pre-mixing on a lot of the songs, producing them, and then spending hours in the studio doing all the tedious stuff that people don't talk about as much, editing and adding fades and all of the hours and hours of little tiny edits you do inside of a song with so many tracks, and putting on effects and then sending it off to my mix engineer, who is just incredible, and then Jim Roach, and then he would mix, and then we sent it off to the mastering engineer. So there's just a lot of things to do at the end of working on my record that I was doing while I was still working on the Envy of None record. But the processes were very different in a lot of ways. Although a lot of what I was doing with the vocals was similar, which was a lot of very tedious things as well as recording. And I record in my home studio and do a lot of those layers and the edits and all those little things that happen after you do the fun part, which is recording.
That's what makes the magic happen. How would you say your experience recording has evolved from album to album?
I think I've grown a lot as a producer. I think on the Lucy Gray album, I was really honing my skills, and then I still am, to be honest. I feel like I'm always going to be learning, but I do think I'm getting better, and the more that I do it, the more that I learn, and the better of an ear that I get for it. But I do think I'm just continuously growing and learning and finding new tricks and getting better at dialing it in.
Of course. So you reinvented Eon's old strings. Was there a specific vision that you kind of had growing for that reinterpretation, or like when did that occur? When did you know that you wanted to redo that song?
It's actually interesting. There's been a lot of different versions of it. That was actually one of the songs that I wrote completely on the Envy of None record. So when I first wrote it, I wrote it on the dulcimer, and it had this very almost like folk rock vibe. And I created this demo of it when I was working in one of my music production classes. And I sent it to them as a potential Envy of None song. And we changed it a lot for the Envy of None record, took out most of the instrumentation except for some of the synth parts,
Right.
and then adding some very ethereal guitar layers and things, and this sort of bed of a very ethereal sense. And it gave it a very different vibe. It taking away the drums made it feel so much more spacious and slower and very ethereal. And then I was like, I still have this demo. It could be really cool to release this very different earlier version of the song. And Alex had played banjo, and I was like, this is just so cool to not do anything with it. So I ended up putting it on my album just to have both versions out in the world.
Yeah, I like them both, but I really do think, you transformed it into something really cool.
Yeah.
We also are big fans of the song The Story. The video is awesome too. I know you've had a lot of roles, in the music videos that you've produced. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you've kind of, been an influence on the videos, including that one.
Yeah, the story was one that I worked with the cinematographer Jaden on. We sort of came up with this morphed concept together. The ideas that I was envisioning were very much light and shadows. I wanted a lot of reflections, and originally I actually wanted two different versions of me, and lots of these very wide angle shots where you had like a kind of like lighter version of the same path and a darker version of the same path, and these two versions of me
Sure.
that were kind of like constantly looking at each other. And we ended up doing a lot of those kind of silhouette shots in the studio, the light and shadows, and playing with a lot of that. And then Jaden, who filmed it, was like, I've been listening to this song a bunch, and I was watching this scene from The Joker where he goes into this bathroom and has this transformation. And he sent me the scene. I was like, this is so cool. And so we wanted to homage that in the music video. And then we came up with this character that was very much influenced by like the Joker or the Crow,
For sure.
where the Crow is more of like this ambiguous figure, not necessarily a villain, but more of a hero, but kind of dark and brooding still. And so it was like, okay, I'm going to create this sort of like villain version of myself, but it's going to be kind of ambiguous and maybe more like the Crow. And so I created this makeup, and it's all very messy and kind of like homaging this scene where he does this interpretive dance. And so I did this interpretive dance in this bathroom, and we filmed that scene for hours, and I spun around in circles like 800 times, and I was so sick by the end of it. But it was really
Uh,
fun.
that's cool. Are you a big fan of the original Crow movie by any chance?
I am. It's a really good movie.
Yeah, I always appreciated that one. There's something so kind of sad but so beautiful about it. The fact that Brandon passed away in that film, but was also playing, a ghost. I almost felt like they shouldn't have made any Crow films after that one. They should have let that
Yeah.
series rest with Brandon. So before we dive into some fan questions, any other additional notes or trivia about Envy of None that you'd like to share?
I think honestly, it's just yeah, if you are an eclectic music lover, if you like heavier stuff or more electronic stuff, you might like our records, and it's definitely grown with me. The first album I worked on when I was really young, and you can hear my voice in the first album is like higher and younger, and then in the second record, the most recent one, you can see and hear like how I've grown as a musician and as a songwriter. So it's kind of fun to listen with that in mind.
For sure. I'd also say the Envy albums are just really diverse, I think, compared to your solo work, which is a lot more consistent, which are both good in different ways. But definitely, I think when you listen to the Eon records, you're going to be going a lot of different places. And so that's one thing I'd point out to some folks too, if they haven't heard the records yet. Ready for a few fan questions?
Yes.
All right. First up, we've got Sam, who mentions that the album covers on both of the Eon records feature two similar figures. Is there any significance behind those motifs?
We decided on these photos. There was a photographer from Plastic that had these photographs we were sorting through to try to find a good album cover. And for the first record, the one that caught all of our eye was this photo of two women. And originally they're holding purses for a purse advertisement. And we're like, there's something about this image that is just so striking.
Yeah.
And we couldn't look away from it. And so we were like, this is it. This has to be the album cover. And, we didn't have any very specific idea in mind at that time of like, this is what it means. It was just like, this just grabs your attention and it's so fun to look at.
Okay.
And then it kind of became this thing we wanted to come back to, this idea of these two women. And so now it's sort of become these two characters related to the band, but it's very much up for interpretation as to what those two figures mean.
Fun stuff. It'll be interesting if you continue that into another album someday. Let's see. Next up is Kira. Kira would love to know, do any of your songs rely on drum machines or do you prefer real drummers?
For some of the songs, they definitely start with programmed drums within the DAW, like within Ableton or Pro Tools or Logic, and then a lot of the times we will blend them with a real drummer or switch to a real drummer. But sometimes we just keep the original programmed drums because they have such a unique feeling to them. So I think it really just depends on the song.
For sure. Let's see. Lori asks, any influence at all by Sarah McLachlan?
I love Sarah McLachlan. I really started to listen to her music when I was probably in my late teens, and I definitely feel like some of that seeped in there. I think she's amazing, and I love her voice so much. So I love that, and I love that you have that connection.
Of course. Yeah, I was a fan for a long time too, and I recently discovered she's releasing some new material, so that's pretty cool. In case you haven't heard it yet, check it out. Let's see. Liam asks, besides your version of Old Strings, are there any other Envy of None songs that you'd want to perform solo?
Ooh, I've done Never Said I Love You a couple of times solo, or with my own band, and it's been really fun. I think there's a few songs like that. Honestly, yeah, I think any of those songs could be really fun to do solo, but my real dream is to do them with Envy of None and get like we've talked about getting like a 20-piece band together, which would be just epic and really cool.
For sure, for sure. I know Alex said he would do some shows, maybe not a explosive tour, but hopefully we'll see you guys around at some point in time as the band continues to catch on. One more fan question. Jonah asks, if you were opening for another artist on a solo tour, who do you think would be a great match for your sound?
On my solo tour, I think I would love to open for Victoria Canal. I'm a huge fan of her music. I've been following her for years now, and I've seen her in concert, and it just like I sobbed the entire show, and it was so beautiful, and I just there's something about that I just think would like it would heal my heart. So someday I hope I get the chance to open for her.
Fantastic. I hope you do too. And check out maiahwynne.com and envyofnone.com for more information on both Maiah and her band. Stream on Bandcamp and Spotify. You can catch Maiah and Eon's latest updates on pretty much every social media platform as well. Maiah, is there anything else that you'd like to mention or say to your fans before we sign off?
Just thank you so much for listening. I know, especially with up and coming artists, there's not a lot of people out there that will take a chance on somebody new, but I appreciate all of you out there who do and take the time to write and listen. It means the world to me. So thank you so much. And thank you, Brian, for having me and taking the time to interview me.
Of course, we're so happy to have you, and do keep in touch. We'd love to have you in the studio if you're ever in the Boston area. Lastly, your website quotes you saying, when I'm feeling small, I remind myself that I can still make big changes. I can say from all of us here at WLAS and our listeners, Maiah, we've been touched by your words, and your music is already making a big difference.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
And thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, keep being you, and I wish you the very best going forward. This was an amazing conversation right here with the extraordinary Maiah Wynne on 102.9 FM, WLAS. I am the Professor Brian Wardyga signing off. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much, Maiah.
Thank you so much, Brian.
All right. So, yeah, like I said, if you're ever in the area, we'd love to have you on campus here in the studio. And best of luck to all your music endeavors. We really look forward to hearing what you're going to come up with next.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was really fun.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.